Prime Minister Anthony Albanese will travel to the US for the 2024 Quad Leaders Summit next week. It will be the fourth in-person meeting between leaders of the US, India, Japan and Australia. The Prime Minister says he's looking forward to the talks, which will focus on boosting Indo-Pacific cooperation. It will be the last time US President Joe Biden and Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida attend the summit. For more on this, let's bring in Strategic Analysis Australia Director Michael Shoebridge. Hi there, Michael. Great to have you join us. So, the fact that this summit is being held in Delaware is all about, which is the hometown of Joe Biden, is all about cementing those personal alliances. But given that we'll have Biden leaving and also the Japanese Prime Minister leaving, what does that say about long-term bipartisan support?
Well, you're right. This is the swan song for Biden and Prime Minister Kishida of Japan. But I suppose the fact that this leaders meeting keeps happening shows there is some durability to the Quad cooperation between India, Japan, the US and Australia. This is the fourth leaders meeting, as you mentioned, and it's happening despite India's continued energy and military partnership with Russia during the Ukraine war. I think the real glue for the Quad is China, and the thing that could have been a wedge is Russia.
Speaking of China, what's been China's response to this?
Beijing hates the Quad, and they like to either pretend it isn't happening or demonize it as some kind of emerging NATO alliance in the Indo-Pacific. But what they really don't like about the Quad is the fact that this different vision for how the Indo-Pacific should work as a more open system where China doesn't dominate it is what the Quad's all about. And that's a very appealing thing for many countries in the region as China gets more powerful and more aggressive.
So what sort of deliverables can we expect from this summit? Will it be on the military front or more on health and health security and natural disasters?
Well, the Quad is a little bit about military stuff, maritime security, but that's really kept in the background and it just keeps bubbling along. I think the bigger profile here is on things like arrangements for infrastructure financing, free, transparent financing arrangements around infrastructure, some health cooperation, and some of the critical technologies and cyber. So the Quad always looks a little fluffy when you look for specific deliverables, but the fact it keeps happening says there's a strategic convergence between these four powerful countries.
Do you think there is a deep level of trust between these four so-called maritime democracies?
I think there is in some ways. Like you look at the growing maritime security cooperation. For years, India said that it couldn't have Japan, the US and Australia all in its big Malabar exercise. Australia was the last one in. That's now routine. The bigger role that India is playing in the Asia-Pacific, not just the Indo-Pacific, has the full support of Japan, Australia and the US. But some of the other stuff is affected by that wedge that is Russia. Modi going to Moscow and having such a lovely meeting with Vladimir Putin, the fact the Indian military is critically dependent on Russian arms, and the fact that India is a major buyer of Russian oil. They're things that undercut the potential of the Quad.
What does Australia bring to the table, given that the other three countries are so much bigger in population size?
Well, location. We're on the hinge of the Indian and Pacific Oceans, and geography really matters. So you look at what's happening in all the bilateral relationships between Australia and India, Australia and Japan, Australia and the US on the military side. Increased exercising out of Australia and with Australia is all what we bring. Of course, that will be helped if we invest in facilities, not just for us, but that are big enough for these partners to work with. And also, we've got to remember we're a major economy. We bring scale in agriculture and mining, and we have amazing technology to exploit those things. India is very interested in that.
Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to talking to you again. Michael Shoebridge, Strategic Analysis Australia Director.